So the topic for tonight's meeting is to help all of us learn about the legal landscape that's been evolving and changing rapidly with regard to rights for trans people. And of course, we're dealing with things like executive orders. We're dealing with state legislation. We're dealing with a lot of injunctions that are taking place. And there's been a recent Supreme Court decision. And Asher was very modest in talking about their background. But Asher, as I understand, you're a legal researcher.
I am. Yeah, I am a legal researcher. That is my, I'm kind of a legal nerd at this point. So I belong to the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Bar Association, as well as the Trans Bar Association. I do a lot of legal research for everything from First Amendment cases, discrimination, all sorts of things. I've contributed to 4 bills in the state of Illinois. And I work a lot with, actually today, worked with ACLU National and Lambda Legal National. So I'm very attuned in to the going-ons of the world as it pertains to trans rights across the country and here in Illinois. I work directly with the governor's office. I actually just met with the Illinois Attorney General a couple weeks ago. So really just trying to stay up to date on what's going on and how to provide best support for those who are impacted.
So that's an amazing background. There's so much we can learn from you. Obviously, we only know either our own experiences or what we've read. So you obviously have much more in-depth knowledge. But I want to say thank you for those who solicited questions in advance. For those of us in the room and those on Zoom, we have 2 pages of questions that Asher has reviewed. But when we're done going through those, we'd also invite people on Zoom and those in the room where we have pens and paper to write your questions down. So then Asher and I can then try to do this in an organized way and get through any questions that anybody has during tonight's program.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Floor is yours.
Great. So I got a ton of amazing questions, and I feel like a lot of these kind of have similar answers. So, the first, starting with here in Illinois, at home, we're very lucky to be a sanctuary state. And a lot of people talk about sanctuary states and sanctuary cities and what that means. And in order to actually be one of those, you have to check a whole lot of boxes for legal protections. And in the state of Illinois, we have the Illinois Human Rights Act that has really helped have all of our rights happen in this state. So I ran a protest this morning. So it's been a long day. But I want to definitely go through all of these that you guys have given. So starting with trans-affirming medical care for minors and adults in the state of Illinois, despite the fact that the Trump administration continues to issue executive orders trying to stop our rights, we are protected in the state of Illinois. And to quote my favorite state representative, Kelly Cassidy, who's the 14th district, executive orders are vibes, not laws, right? They don't actually hold a whole lot. I can get out there and say, I think X, Y, and Z and put it on a piece of paper. But the federal government can only control the federal government. States are governed individually. So we're very lucky to have Governor Pritzker, who has a trans sibling, has been an incredible advocate for our communities here. So in the state of Illinois, you can still access all of your care. And if you live in another state and come into Illinois, medical providers and mental health providers in the state of Illinois are shielded from any repercussions from those states, so they can provide care here as well. So for those of you who are in Indiana, Wisconsin, or just want to take a really great trip to Illinois, you can get care here without any barriers. Now, we've seen a couple things happen over the last year, or like it's not the last year, right? The Trump administration feels like it's been forever, guys, but it hasn't, right? We're just at about 5 months. We've seen things like Lurie Children's Hospital roll back some of their surgical care, Northwestern as well, as it pertains to youth. But we also saw it happen with UI, and our organization was actually instrumental in getting them to reschedule all of those appointments. And we're working right now with Lurie and Northwestern on the same things. But as an adult over the age of 19, you can still access care everywhere in the state of Illinois. And in most places, minus a handful of places under the age of 19 as well. So when we're going into, I'm going to skip around a little bit on these. So I'm going to do all the medical stuff together so that it makes the most sense. So requirements for companies and insurers to provide trans affirming care. In the state of Illinois, all providers, unless they fall under a religious exemption, don't work for a Catholic organization. That's my kind of 2 cents on that. They're required to include gender affirming care in the state of Illinois. We had a bill passed several years ago in order to ensure that. So if your provider is not doing that, if you're running into those things, our organization can actually help you through that. We work directly with insurance providers all the time and have incredible advocates within the system to help. And so there is religious exemptions. Those are things that we just simply can't get around. That's just part of their rights. Now, we had a case several years ago with Hobby Lobby, right? Hobby Lobby was sued for not providing gender affirming care as well as birth control and other things. They lost that. They lost it hard. And the reason is because it's discriminatory, right? Gender is a protected class as well as sex. So you can't say, well, you get this and you don't. And so they are now required to provide that care. They're required to provide birth control. They're required to do gender affirming care. But say you work for a church that is not pro our rights, they have a religious exemption in that way. And so unfortunately, those are laws that we can't get around. And then, really great question is the potential changes to Medicaid, the ACA, the 2025 proposed budget bill. So it still actually includes all gender affirming care. The biggest change is the recertification. It goes from once a year to once every 6 months. So it's going to become incredibly important to stay on top of those things. If you are not paying attention, you miss your recertification, those type of things can cause you loss of care. Now, the state itself is mostly good at helping you navigate those things. But you and I both know that you don't want to go stand in line at any office and trying to, do all of those things. So in theory, they claim that there's going to be automated systems to help remind you to do those recertifications. But in this, again, Medicaid here, all of our public health care here still requires gender affirming care that was put into place by Governor Pritzker. So it does include all gender affirming care as long as you have medical documentation of gender dysphoria or one of the related codes. And that way they see it as medically necessary. Now, if you go to a private plastic surgeon who doesn't take insurance, or, there are a handful of surgeries that are not covered, we can definitely help you navigate those things, but most of them are. If you can get a mental health provider, even your primary care physician, to write you a letter saying, this is necessary for my patient, for their well-being, insurance is supposed to take that seriously. Same thing goes whether you're a minor, you're an adult, you're a senior, age does not matter in those situations. Does anyone have any questions on the medical realm before I move on?
Yes, just 2 follow-ups.
Yes.
What if your employer is not based in Illinois?
Mm-hmm.
Is your medical care still subject to Illinois law or that state that they're in? And when you say recertification every 6 months, do you mean we as patients need to get recertified for that care to continue?
Yeah, so those are great questions. So in the state so back it up, states are governed individually. So you are kind of bound to the laws of your state if you're in the United States. But if you, say, live in Indiana, you can drive across the state line and get care here. Okay. Now it would depend on your insurance. If you have private insurance, meaning non-Medicaid, you can utilize that insurance cross state lines. If you have Medicaid in Indiana, Indiana Medicaid does not always transfer over to other states. It depends on the care and it depends on the provider. If you go to a public hospital, it transfers. So you just have to be careful in what providers you're utilizing. We definitely can help get resources to everybody of those providers here in the state of Illinois and other sanctuary states or cities that have them. If you're in a different state and you need help with understanding those laws, please let me know. I am I feel conceited saying this. I'm an expert on Illinois, but unfortunately we're called Trans Upfront Illinois because I am one human and I try to keep up with all 50 states. But there's only so much time in the day and hours, but I'm always happy to do that research. And then in terms of the recertification, so typically for Medicaid, right, you apply and then there's that once a year recertification. They send you a thing. Do you still qualify under your income and those type of things? They're moving that process to every 6 months under the proposed. But what about Medicare? So Medicare, from what I know of, is still staying the same at once a year.
Saying what?
The same as it currently is in the proposed budget for Medicare versus Medicaid.
For Medicare, you don't have to recertify.
Oh, so the
What?
process stays
Yeah.
the same.
Once you're 65.
Yeah, once you're
You're
65.
not gonna get, you know.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I feel like I age like 5 years every day right now, but and then Pride Month is over, and I'm like, oh yeah, back to my normal state.
So back to Medicare,
Yes.
given the sanctuary state that Illinois is in, could the federal government pass a law taking trans affirming care out of Medicare?
You know, anything is possible, right? And I say this is what I know as of today, because what we know in the current legal landscape is that things change sometimes it feels like every single day. Governor Pritzker has stayed very committed to trans affirming care for all ages in the state of Illinois. So, you know, I am hopeful that if the federal government did try any of those things, that the state would help fix that issue. I can't predict the future, and I try really hard not to be a fortune teller because I don't like to be wrong. My spouse on here can tell you that. I like to make sure I live in the now. If you can't see them, there's yeah. I like my research and I research everything. But as of today, right now, the statement most recently issued by Pritzker is that he would continue to help subsidize that care. Yes.
My question tails on Chrissy's. If you have a Medicare Advantage program, which is essentially, it's, yes, Medicare, but it's covered through other insurance companies like Aetna. Are they bound by changes?
So if that care is through the state of Illinois,
Right,
they're bound by continuing gender affirming care.
correct.
Yeah.
So even if they change Medicare, it may not change those who are covered under Medicare Advantage programs, correct?
Yes, that is correct. That
Okay.
is absolutely correct.
Which I guess would be the same for supplemental insurance programs under, depending on who the insurer is.
Depends, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
if there is a federal law passed or an executive order, we will need to be very careful and talk to our providers.
Yeah, absolutely. I would talk to your providers because you also want to figure out how they're billing.
Right.
Because sometimes it's considered secondary insurance. Sometimes it's a different type of insurance. There are so many insurance options right now in the world. And I wish that I had time to research all of them, because I definitely go down the rabbit hole and then Charlie yells at me to sleep. But, but yeah, so, if you have secondary insurance, if you have supplemental insurance, and that is from a private insurer in the state of Illinois, they are required to continue to provide gender affirming care.
Thank you.
Any other questions on medical?
Yeah, I think you touched upon the question of if somebody's employed by an organization that is not headquartered in Illinois. So their office is, say, like in Wisconsin. What was that? Or Delaware, yeah. So if they're in a different state, maybe even Texas, but they have offices and employees in Illinois,
They're bound by Illinois law.
they're still bound by Illinois.
They're bound by Illinois law. If you have employees that, So for instance, I work with Centene.
Hmm.
Okay. And they have a division called Youth Care. We provide all gender affirming trainings for the foster system for the state of Illinois. And so we work with them pretty often. And they have employees all over the country because now they're primarily remote. If you are in a sanctuary state, technically your insurance is going, like, they are still required to provide that based on your residence, even if you're a remote worker.
So my company, by chance, is headquartered in San Francisco, and my insurance plan is through a San Francisco insurer, which in this case is Cigna out of out of California. And fortunately, I'm not planning any gender affirming surgeries, but as I read the plan, there's a $10,000 cap per transition on any gender affirming surgeries. That, of course, covers nothing.
Right.
Amen to that.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's hard because they are allowed to, depending on your plan, they are allowed to impose caps. They're not allowed to remove gender affirming care. And so there are some ways around that with your employer. I'd recommend reaching out to your HR, because if your residence is here, you can submit documentation that you're in this state. These are the requirements here. And there's an appeal process. Nobody likes to go through the appeal process in insurance. And we have had mostly success in those processes, where you kind of just have to get on the phone with someone, unfortunately.
Folks on Zoom, any questions on the
I
medical
see
side?
in the chat, there's,
Yeah, let's see what we've got here. Chat.
ooh. Oh,
We got Medicare. Is Medicare state regulated similar to Medicare?
I believe also.
Supplement, you mean, so she
Yeah,
means supplemental
So
insurance.
supplements, so if your primary insurance, if it's a supplemental insurance, if your primary insurance does not cover something, there is a higher chance that your supplemental insurance will not. However, if your primary insurance is not covering something that is based on a requirement under the law in your state, that is appealable, and then they will cover it. But you have to know the process. I think a lot about insurance and the law is really putting everyone at a disadvantage. You have to know the systems. You have to, you know, do the research, get on the phones, and you become a personal expert. And it takes time and energy, which is why when we formed our organization, we are made up of people who are experts in each one of those lanes, and that they can help walk people through that instead of trying to reinvent the wheel or spend hours frustrated on the phone, or, you know, help you get the right extensions and people.
I'm an actuary. I worked for Blue Cross Blue Shield for 6 years. And I think that the distinction between the Medicare supplement and the Medicare Advantage is that Medicare supplement, it can cover the co-pays and co-insurance portion of care that Medicare covers, but it doesn't cover any care that Medicare doesn't cover. Whereas Medicare Advantage is allowed to cover a lot of other things, and it's very common to cover things like vision care and dental care that are not covered by Medicare, but they will be covered under Medicare Advantage, but they won't be covered under Medicare supplement. So,
Amazing.
yeah.
Okay, any other medical questions? I want to get, I have like great updates on the legal documentation.
No, I have a question.
Yes.
So I'm on HRT
Mhm.
and I go to Howard Brown. And so I'm on hormone replacement therapy. I do estrogen shots and I do progesterone.
Mhm.
And I use Blue Cross Blue Shield PPO through my wife's employer because I've been unemployed since last August. And I also am on Medicare A and B. Am I in danger of anything? Because when I went recently just to have a colonoscopy, good old Robert Kennedy asked for if I'm a transgender person in the new forms.
You are not required to fill out that section. to get care. It's discriminatory. And that was also passed in the state of Illinois, that they did a executive order bill, whatever, same thing as with the autism thing, that they cannot create a registry. You're not required to fill out your gender identity. But with Howard Brown, they work with insurance. They actually have a subsidized program. So say for any reason you weren't able to get access, it's actually cheaper to get hormones through Howard Brown than it is through your insurance, because they get kind of credits. But again, if you have Blue Cross Blue Shield PPO, you're fine.
It usually works. I'm going in for my 6-month appointment next month, so I'm a little concerned.
I have Blue Cross Blue Shield PPO. I'm a trans person. My spouse is on testosterone. My daughter's on estrogen. So we have not had any issues. We have had issues with Walgreens, but
Walgreens gets confused.
But Walgreens is having some big feelings. But so we moved over to Costco. That is my recommendation on that. But yeah, no, you should not. In this moment, based on what I know, you should not have any issues.
Good. I can't
This
be.
is insurance related. Certain cosmetic procedures, such as facial feminization surgery and or hair removal, either laser or electrolysis. Those may be denied because they're considered cosmetic, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So sometimes you can get hair removal if it's related to an upcoming surgery. For instance,
But that would be bottom.
that's for bottom surgery.
Okay.
That is usually the only time they will really
Right.
cover it. Facial feminization surgery, I have seen it covered by insurance
Okay.
with the help of mental health providers and other like endocrinologists writing letters to your insurance. It is an appeal process. It is a huge pain.
Yeah.
But a good friend of mine just got facial feminization surgery. When was Trans Day of Visibility? It was the day after Trans Day of Visibility,
Okay.
April 1st. And was able to get about 70% of it covered by their insurance by going through all of that. And it took them a couple months and rescheduling multiple times. But they did get it covered, partially.
All right. Thank you.
I work in Illinois, I live in Indiana. My company's corporate officer, Wisconsin. Well, Wisconsin has gender affirming policies as well. So it depends on what your insurance is. If you work in Illinois, you live in India, that's kind of a gray area. Indiana's awful.
You tell me about it. That's my question.
Don't
by the
live
way.
there.
Yeah.
That's my recommendation.
I'm
Come
living
to
through
us.
it every day.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't even let our daughter go on a field trip that went through Indiana. Because
I recommend you fly over it.
exactly. And they wanted to drive through it, and I was like, "But what if she has to use the bathroom?" The answer is no. Because she's got a big mouth. She will talk back. When it comes to someone's like gender identity, she's an activist in her own right. But because you live in Indiana and your residence is in Indiana, depending on your insurance that you are getting, you are bound by Indiana law because states are governed individually. You drive into Illinois to work, or you work remotely?
I do.
I feel like there's a strategic way to get around that, and you should contact me and we'll figure it out, because this feels like a really good puzzle.
I know it's a very difficult question, and hopefully you can help me with it. I'll contact you outside of this meeting.
You absolutely should. This is not the first time I've been in this situation. We've done some maneuvering to help get things covered, especially because you drive into Illinois. So yeah, I like a good puzzle, and I like helping people. So I'm going to definitely help you with this one. I mean, I'll help anyone who contacts me.
Okay, I've got one more question for you. I have a good friend whose spouse, she gets her insurance through her spouse. It's almost the same situation. They live in Indiana. Her spouse works in Illinois, but their health insurance is out of Blue Cross of Iowa. And so far they've denied just about everything that she's applied for, stating that they're governed by Iowa's laws, and I wasn't sure that was true since the company has a plant in Illinois, and that is where the spouse works.
It is not true. However, we do know that that Iowa was the first state in the United States to remove gender identity from their protected classes. And they're a huge pain in the ass. But I say how it is. Yes. So if they're that's I can help with that one. I've already dealt with the Iowa situation.
Okay, well, I'll have
so-
her contact you too, because she's getting serious flack from that company, and I told her I didn't think that was right since they have a plant in Illinois.
Yeah. It's not, and there's an entire gender affirming healthcare facility just on the border of Iowa and Illinois that has all double board certified providers for Iowa and Illinois for people to cross state lines to get their care, and their care is based out of Iowa. So there is a way around it, I promise.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay. Let's move on to some legal protections. Does anyone know what happened this week as it pertains to passports?
Well, I know that-
Yes, the judge blocked the
Yes.
passport ban.
On Tuesday, we got a whole 24 hours of good news in the legal world. A federal judge blocked and created an injunction to immediately allow the change of federal documentation of passports, not Social Security, just by the way, to get your gender identity to match who you are. So anyone who's been denied previously can now get their passport and their gender that they identify with. In the state of Illinois, again, sanctuary state, you can self-identify your gender. You don't need any medical documentation. You don't need any mental health documentation. You can simply send in a piece of paper. It's $10 and say, change this on my birth certificate or change this on my driver's license or whatever it is, if your birth certificate's in the state of Illinois. Now, there are several states in the United States that still require documentation of bottom surgery in order to change your gender marker, Texas being one of them, Florida being another. And to kind of touch on that a little bit, about 10 years ago, that was every state, right? And now we are slowly watching states move forward. We're slowly watching states independently remove those barriers. So a lot of states now either have, a majority of them, you just need to get a piece of paper signed by your medical or mental health provider, or you can self-assign. Now we know that there are states that are awful in the United States that you just simply can't do that right now. But if you have a court order in Illinois for a name change or anything like that, your state you were born in, even if they're in Texas, are required to change your documentation. There's an incredible organization called the TJLP, Transformative Justice Law Project. They are completely free attorneys that do all of this for you. So if you want to get your name legally changed or update any documentation, they will work with you one-on-one. And I can also send this out, the Transformative Justice Law Project. And if you have any issues getting through to them, because I know they're a little crazy, if I email them directly with you on it, they answer pretty instantly because they know me. And also I help facilitate their trainings. So they like me. But so in the state of Illinois, you have that. You have access to free pro bono legal care. There is the ability in Cook County for fee waivers that are sliding scale from 100% to 25%. And as you get farther out of Cook County or Chicagoland, it gets has a little bit more barriers, right? If you head down to Southern Illinois, they're still required to do those things. But the average cost across the state is just shy of $400 for a legal name change. Gender marker changes, again, are free, except sending in a piece of paper that costs $10 so that they update your documentation. Same thing if you have a driver's license or state ID, you can go in, it's $10 again. I don't know why everything's $10. And you can get your marker changed without any documentation at all. Now, as we go into surrounding states, like we have Indiana, Wisconsin, those type of things, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Michigan all have processes to change your name legally, except they do have more requirements for changing your gender marker. It's a piece of paper, have someone sign it. Now, when we go to the more complicated states in the Midwest, we have Iowa, we go farther out and head towards what I call the Bible Belt, down in the bottom, right? It gets a little bit more interesting. If anyone lives in the United States outside of the Midwest and would like help navigating those things, I can help you. If you're in another country, I have access to Nexus Lexis. I can look it up and help you navigate those too. I know in Australia, they have great care and they're great with trans individuals. It really kind of just depends on where you are in the United States. I do love that we are individually governed by each state so that you have the ability with privilege, of course, to kind of go to where works best for you. We're helping a lot of families move into our sanctuary state right now who are in other states who are unfortunately getting their care canceled. So I'm sorry, I'm going through these. Okay. Anyone have any other legal questions?
Last one.
Yeah.
You mentioned Social Security, but a legal name change is a legal name change across, including Social Security.
Yeah, there has never been a barrier with this administration to change your name. I can see the captions of everyone too, just so you know. Not to me, I don't want you to sign because if I go faster than you, it's just because I can see it there. For those on the screen, I'm a deaf person, so I have a sign language interpreter here and we're using captioning. I am actually one of 3 deaf trans leaders in the whole country. And so that's, part of my journey. But yeah, so a legal name change is a court document granted by a judge, no matter where you are in the country, no matter what, you have access to that. You can change it on Social Security, passport, all of those type of things without any barriers. It is a court order, so the federal government can deal with it.
If you legally change your name and your gender on your birth certificate, are you still at risk using a public restroom in a state that bans trans people from using restrooms that don't correspond with their sex at birth?
Yes, that is my short answer. So it's a little more complicated than that. If you are in a state where your body parts do not match your gender identity, you are still at risk of legal repercussions.
Like Florida.
Like Florida, where I'm unfortunately from. I'm from the very bottom, the very, basically North Cuba.
So what if you have bottom surgery?
Then the government considers you a cis female or cis male at that point.
I have a question. But when you go into a hospital, they now ask you, what was your birth gender?
Yeah. So they ask you what your sex assigned at birth was. So that's really different. So we talk a lot about sex and gender.
Right.
So sex is your biological, what you were born with. And even when you have surgery, for instance, if you, people choose different surgeries. And so your internal anatomy and your external anatomy may not match, or you might be intersex, or there might be variants. And so when you're talking to a medical provider, it's to make sure I was in the hospital last year with pneumonia. And my medical providers were confused. I was asked about testicles. I was asked about, I was asked about every type of body part you could possibly imagine. And all of that is because your body produces testosterone or estrogen, or you might have a risk of ovarian torsion, or you might have testicles. There are all sorts of things. So from a medical standpoint, they're asking you because they want to make sure they're giving you proper doses of medication, that they're taking into account what your body produces naturally. If you're on HRT, for instance, I'm not on HRT. People are really surprised by that. I used to be, I went off of it because of medical reasons, because I am one of the few people that the HRT was actually causing my liver to fail. And so I had to choose between testosterone and being alive. And so I chose being alive. And for me, that's okay. Like, I feel comfortable in who I am. I've had top surgery. I have kind of completed the surgical pieces that I want. And actually, I went to Northwestern, and I know your provider that you're going to down there, who is a fantastic person. But, you know, that is why they ask from that standpoint. When we're talking about these like bathroom bans, and we're even seeing it with cisgender people, right? Like, has everyone heard about what happened in New York, where a cisgender woman who is just more masculine or butch presenting was yanked out of a bathroom, a women's bathroom. She's a cisgender woman. Okay, we're hearing about this all over the country. I was recently at a school board meeting. I do a lot of school board actions, Naperville. I did that one. I know a couple of you from there, where a woman was speaking at the podium and said that she checks for shoe sizes under the stalls to see who she can guess is trans to report them to management because it makes her unsafe. And I'm just like, but you're the unsafe one. Why are you looking at people's shoes? Also, I know plenty of cis women with big feet. You know, and so, you know, these people who are emboldened by the Trump administration, who are just hateful or biased, they're going to find ways. And so, and we're even seeing it from, you know, we're only really seeing it in attacking in trans feminine people. We're not seeing it on the other side as much, which is incredibly unfortunate, even in sports, right? We're seeing this all as target to trans women. Yes.
The one trans lady in the congresswoman,
So
did you ever figure out which bathroom she could use?
Just with her, Charlie, when were we in DC? Was it 2 weeks ago? I spoke at the Human Rights Conference for Global Pride. When were we in DC?
It feels like
Forever ago already.
I know. It was almost 3 weeks ago.
And we got to spend time with her. She's wonderful. You know, she's had a lot of conversations with people of like, okay, I can go into this restroom, but would that make you feel safe? Okay, I can go into this restroom, but like, I'm going in to pee. Like, that's it. Going in, going out. No trans person is going in there to go check out other people. Nope. But if you're going into the bathroom to check out other people, like in general, I don't care what your gender identity is, you need to find a hobby. But that's my take on things. You know, she talks a lot about those things and even standing up again in her position of like, great, so what bathroom do you want me to use? And I think that's incredibly powerful. And we see this with youth a lot. You know, I speak a lot on these topics as it pertains to schools, as workplaces. And did you know there is not a single case in the entire United States of a trans person attacking a cis person in a bathroom?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know that there are over 200,000 cases of cis people attacking trans people in bathrooms?
Yes.
And that over 50% of those are based on being forced into a restroom they don't identify with.
Yeah.
So, you know, those are incredibly powerful statistics and numbers that I speak to all the time. I'm routinely with political figures. About a month ago, I was in Rockton, Illinois, which is northwest, in a little city where trans kids were being called out by their own state representatives and state senators who were talking against them. And I got the privilege to speak right after them. And the first thing I said was, it sounds like you need a civics lesson because these right-wing individuals don't seem to know how the legislative system works. But two, I reminded them they used the same bathroom as a trans person today. And did anything bad happen to them? And they didn't like that as well. And so, you know, we, even in the state of Illinois, in a sanctuary state, we still have people in elected positions who are doing awful things. But the great thing about our state is we have way more who are pro-rights. Today I was with State Senator Mike Simmons. I'm actually speaking at his press conference this coming week, State Representative Cassidy. We have all these incredible powerhouses who are here that are working really hard for our rights. But when you travel, do research. Where are you going? What are the current state laws? HRC has what they call like a scorecard. So you can look up the state online and instantly see what all their rights are. You can instantly see at a glance, color coded, where that state stands for each thing without having to do too much research.
Asher, I'm not sure if you answered Krista's
My
question.
gender.
And legal name change with Social Security.
No, nothing in terms of the current political climate causes a reversal of anything that's happened. So for instance, when they tried to eliminate for temporarily the passports, it was very well stated that it will not go retroactive. It's for renewals or for future. But now that again has an injunction. Same thing, my paperwork and my no, if you had bottom surgery, you're fine. You're fine. Okay, if you've had bottom surgery, you, in the eyes of the federal government, have magically become cis. So congratulations, you have now entered a new gender identity.
I'd like to update my earlier comment. I identify as a cis woman.
Yeah, so our federal government, for some reason, takes bottom surgery as and again, like every person's gender identity is deeply personal. So whether you identify as a trans female, you can be a trans female and just say I'm a female. Trans women are women, right? Period. Done. Same thing with men. Trans men are men. You don't have to justify that. No matter how you identify, and I work with kids who tell me all sorts of things and I say, cool, right? They come up with their own terms every day. And I work with, all the way in any age, anyone who wants help, even though we say all the time that we only go to age 25, I have boundary issues and I will help anyone who reaches out to me. Charlie can also attest to that, which is probably why I'm so busy all the time. But, could Congress pass a law to remove gender identity protections in Title VII? Yes. Yes and no. So they could, they won't. And this is my take on it. Nobody wants a civil war. So what we've noticed that our House is awful. The House continuously passes hateful things. Our Congress has been doing the right thing most of the time. Do I think they get it right 100% of the time? No. Do I think anyone gets it right 100% of the time? No. But when it comes to our Constitution, amendments, to change those at a federal level, most of the time, so in order to get something changed in there, it takes longer than one presidential term, the process. So that would mean, and again, we're all hoping that Trump just magically vanishes, but they wouldn't be able to make it happen in his term. And the hope is that when he is done, we will have someone better because you guys see the protests, No King's Day, all of those type of things. We're hoping, I have hope. I have to stay grounded in hope with the work I do, is that we're going to see a much more progressive president next. So could they pass a law? They could. Has it been on the radar? A little bit. I work with National ACLU and Lambda Legal. I'm on calls with them every week, and it isn't something that's on their radar currently to be worried about. That's my take on it.
Along those lines, are there any court cases in the system that could result in the Supreme Court reversing its decision in 2018, which included gender identity and discrimination based on sex?
Yes and no. Not that would impact us here. So U.S. v. Scarmetti came out on Wednesday. U.S. v. Scarmetti is the Supreme Court case brought in Tennessee to allow a state to deny gender affirming care to youth. The Supreme Court got it wrong 6-3 and voted against access for trans youth. That's where I was this morning. Our organization was appointed by National ACLU to lead all of the actions as it pertains to that. So I led the press conference on Wednesday, and I got, shy of 1,000 people to go march the streets with me today and do a lot of protests. I'm surprised I am not the color of this shirt right now, but you know, what those Supreme Court decisions do is they are guidance, which means that other states can take that guidance and recommendation outside of the state it was governed in. For instance, this was Tennessee. So it affirms the lower courts in Tennessee to be able to remove access to healthcare. We do not have any Supreme Court cases that are directly related to Illinois that would impact us directly. Now, there are other cases currently in which could be guidance for other states to say, we don't have to provide you care. This is where our sanctuary state status is so important. Because even though now there's this guidance, and we're going to see other states doubling down for trans youth. I mean, I spend my entire life talking about trans youth that are going to try to remove those rights because of that case. We know here in Illinois, we won't have that issue.
Mine is a two-part question regarding Tennessee.
Mhm.
In the state of Tennessee, are puberty blockers legal to treat minors undergoing precocious, i.e. early puberty?
Yes,
If so,
it is.
how is denying puberty blockers to minors with gender dysphoria not discriminatory?
That's what makes this a landmark case. And
Get around that.
I have so many big feelings. Okay. You're absolutely right.
Okay, I argued it wrong.
Well, not only that, but puberty blockers are reversible.
Correct.
Oh, but
So
nothing permanent about them.
In this case, it was a lot about HRT.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, is there lasting effects to HRT? Yes. So I have a trans daughter. She's 13 years old. She transitioned socially at 4.5. She started. Oh, that's my children. I saw that face. She started puberty blockers in December of 2022 with the implant in her arm. She got them removed in March of this year after Lurie canceled her appointment, calling it surgical care. And then I planned the protest outside of Lurie, and then they called me because they knew it was me. Magically, she got her appointment back. But did I mention I'm a huge pain in the ass? Because it's true. You can ask anyone who knows me. But puberty blockers are used for all sorts of reasons. And they're used by cis individuals, are used by trans individuals. And the issue with the state of Tennessee is they argued it on the basis of gender identity, basically claiming that it's not valid, right? That your gender dysphoria, like there were a lot of, in my opinion, missteps. And also there were a lot of things that the Supreme Court didn't allow argument on because it had to be based on what happened in the lower court. And there were missteps. There were missteps and there were just parameters that our legal system is not perfect. So yes, when it comes to puberty blockers, they're 100% reversible. We see them in all sorts of ways. HRT, there are lasting effects when we're talking about anyone of any age, but especially for youth. It is discriminatory, and it's one of the bases that we're working on right now for Lurie Children's Hospital, because they remove surgical care for top surgery for trans individuals, but not for cis individuals. So if you're a cis person and need a breast reduction, or there's some other reason that you need some sort of surgical removal of breast tissue on the top, on your chest, right? They're still allowing that to happen if it's not coded for gender dysphoria. If it's coded for gender dysphoria, they are now no longer doing that at Lurie Children's Hospital if you're 19 and under. It is discriminatory. I am actually working on a class action suit right now, which I can't go into detail on, but and there are a lot of pressure campaigns and other things happening as it pertains to Lurie. They have been at the forefront of gender affirming care. I've been with them since they were 3 people. I've done a lot of their trainings, like developed them. It's not their clinic, it's their CEO, Tom Shanley. He calls it cutting off the arm to save the body, but it's also important to know that not a single hospital system has actually had funds removed for providing surgical care on the basis of gender identity. A federal judge already blocked that with an injunction. Actually, every executive order has been blocked with an injunction as it pertains to federal funding on the basis of gender identity. For a little reference.
Are any of those likely to go to the Supreme Court?
No, because you would need a lower court case first for it to be able to. For you to have to have a lower court case, it has to get appealed, and then that appeal then has to. There's like an entire system. So first, you would need a case, and right now there is, outside of the sports one, which we'll get to, because that predates this administration, which is why there's no federal injunction, because there's actually already one from a case that already existed when they issued that executive order. Talk about not doing research, guys. Come on. Like if you're like, if my job was to write executive orders for the president of the United States, I would probably have a team to research what is happening currently in the court system. But nobody said this administration's smart.
So let's go with trans kids, trans girls, trans women in sports.
And it's not just kids, right? It's even at the national level. So in the state of Illinois, the Illinois High School Association issued a statement. They stand in support with our trans athletes. I know there's a lot going on in Naperville right now as it pertains to that, which we are deeply ingrained in right now. But they're not allowed to discriminate on the basis of gender. There are actually only 3 trans athletes in the entire state competing at a level that it would even be impacted. And when we're talking about teens or students. When it comes to our national sports, most sports leagues have already a system in place. For instance, in soccer, they have specific things that has always existed as it pertains to estrogen levels, hormones. And part of that, remember, also impacts intersex individuals. So these already exist. Actually, recently, the National Fencing Association told a cis person if they have a problem, I guess they're not competing, and removed the cis person who is being transphobic and did not allow them to compete. So we are seeing it in a case-by-case basis. Do you know how many people have an Olympic medal that are trans, a transition prior to 0? Do you know how many who transitioned afterwards? 2.
Oh, okay, 2. No goals.
No golds. No golds. And one we don't speak about because she's awful. But Caitlyn Jenner. Nobody wants her. The trans community doesn't want her. The cis community doesn't want her. Caitlyn Jenner.
Ooh, don't talk her name.
Exactly.
She's the reason I got into it, and she went ballistically crazy.
He's something. But we have a soccer player. That's why I always reference it. We have a soccer player who transitioned after receiving a silver medal, and is the only they're one of the only ones who.
And if I understand correctly, Trump's attempt to extort Maine into not allowing trans girls to play in sports did not work, and they failed on that. Is that right?
Say that again?
They failed. So Trump's administration was trying a lot of tactics for pressure to not allow trans females. It's always trans females, right? Like it's never trans males, right? They tried a lot of very interesting tactics, including extortion, to not allow that. They epically failed. Like it did not work. So Maine held their ground, and I did not expect that from Maine. Like we were all bracing ourselves, but they have stand firmly, and they're actually working on their sanctuary state requirements right now. I actually have one of my brothers lives in Maine, and he has a wife who has a trans child from a previous relationship. So I've now become their person, and we were all worried. And Maine came out of nowhere of like too damn bad. But we're also seeing with Harvard University, right? The Trump administration is like, well, I'm going to remove all international students. I'm going to remove all these things. And Harvard's like, great. We're going to now make all of this materials on how to not be a shitty person to trans people public. And now it's public knowledge, and we're going to double down. And we are really seeing a big institutes and a lot of states really showing their colors and their support for our community. Yes, great. So moving into travel, I talk about travel so much, everything from states to international, and there's a lot of concerns. So for instance, I have an X gender marker on my passport, and I always tell people when they travel, research where you're going, and you should be doing that anyways, right? I'm a gay person. I pay attention to where I'm traveling to because I want to make sure the country I'm going to is affirming in who I am. And same thing is my gender. I was in France a couple years ago, and let me tell you, they looked at my passport and they were like, is it broken? Basically, they're like, I don't understand. And once I talked to them, they were fine. So with the current political climate, I always say it's your risk aversion. Okay, there is no absolute. We are, for instance, I'm talking domestically. Charlie and I flew. Charlie's also transmasc. We flew to Washington, D.C. I was a speaker at the Human Rights Conference for Global Pride, and we were the only visibly trans people around to go through security at 3:30 in the morning at O'Hare. Okay, we were not traveling internationally. And we got flagged as the only people required to go through the full body scanner.
O'Hare.
And O'Hare.
And then the full pat down.
And then we got full pat downs as the only trans people around. Okay, we're seeing this domestically, we're seeing this internationally. So those body scanners that you have to do this thing, they're looking for body parts that may or may not be there. Okay, because when you go through, there's a button. There's only two, male, female. So they look at me and they think male. Sorry, and they press that button. I don't have a penis. So let's be real. I'm honest, I'm open, like, right? So, and same thing with my spouse. They were like, do you want to wait for a male to pat you down? I'm like, no, we're good. We're trans. And they're like, the lady kept apologizing, but she's like, I know. And we had to do full pat down. I front, and Charlie, for some reason, front and back. And because that flag that, and they're required to do it. So we're seeing this in all directions. When it comes to where your passport is from, do you have an international passport? Do you have a United States passport? You know, those type of things. We are seeing an increased number of people not being allowed back in the United States, even if they live here, who do not have a US passport.
So Philippa, who's on here.
Yes.
Valerie mentioned that Philippa she's Australian, has had all her surgeries. And what would happen if she came to the US? Both any possibility of her not being allowed entry, 1, 2, being detained, and equally when she goes back, what could happen?
So I'll reference the Human Rights Conference again. I had a person who was supposed to be on one of the panels with me, and she's from Thailand. She got to the United States and they sent her back. We are seeing that happen whether you're trans or not. Pretty often. Now, I would make sure that you have your documentation in order. Do you have a visa? What are you here for? Depends on, where you're coming from. I'm not great at knowing all the recommendations for each country. But it is a risk. Will you be detained? No. You will be given another plane ticket back. You'll be turned around.
For being transgender?
No, for travel bans.
Oh, okay.
Different, whether you're trans or not.
So Australia is not subject to a travel ban?
Correct, but we've seen even
Doesn't
people
matter.
in Germany getting held, getting turned back. People who have visas to come speak at conferences getting turned back to their countries. So it's not necessarily trans or not. Sometimes it's because of political views. They've looked at your phone. They've looked up who you are. It's not always about transness.
Yeah. And that's something that Charlie and I navigate a lot with people, and especially like I speak at a lot of conferences, so it's something we run into. It seems almost random at this point because you just never know. And again, it's risk aversion. I personally don't recommend coming to the United States in general right now, but if I could go, I'd be peace. But the work we do, I'm not going anywhere, for the record. That is something that we've stayed very steadfast in. But traveling right now is not about transness. It's about the federal government and their random decision, and they'll question you. Why are you here? They want to make sure you're not going to overstay. What are you here for? Why are, all of those things. Yes.
I have a US passport. It's got an X on it. Would I have any problem getting back into the country?
No, not on the basis of gender identity.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, we have not heard any instances of US citizens coming back and being not allowed to.
You may have that extra pat down, but
you may be subjected to
That
those
doesn't
things.
bother me.
Yes.
Are they canceling passports with X on it?
No, that has been reinstated with the injunction. Yeah.
The injunction says it will be reinstated, or it actually has been
It
reinstated?
has been released.
It has.
So you can apply.
Because this administration is very good at not listening to the courts.
They have to.
Yeah, I mean, they have to. In this case, it is a federal judge. And the systems are already in place. They have to. I mean, people could lose their jobs if they don't, regardless of the federal government.
Do you recommend that we change our legal names to our trans name if we are fully transitioned or transitioned 100% of the time, and or our birth certificates?
I think that's a deeply personal decision. I think that every person's transition is personal and different. And it depends on what your comfort level is, what you feel within your soul, who you are, and how you want to navigate the world. I know there are some of you who toe different lines, right? You are still living in two different worlds. And some of us have the privilege and some don't. Some feel safe and some don't. And so if you're in a place that you have transitioned, you're living your authentic life, these are the names that you go by, you have to determine for yourself, like, is your community accepting, or are you like, if you're not accepting, peace out. That's cool too, right? I think that every person's journey is different. My name is not legally changed. There's a myriad of reasons for that. Part of it is safety. I deal with hate groups on a weekly basis. Awake Illinois is pretty obsessed with me. They love to post videos of me speaking. I'm like, thank you for spreading information to your followers about how not to be shitty to trans people. But for instance, if you Google my name, you're going to get all the work I do, but you can't find where I live. Right? So for me, it's a safe thing. My first and my last name are different than the deed in my house. So we all have to look at it through that lens. And I've had many of intakes with people who are trying to figure those out. There's no right or wrong time to change your name. There's no right or wrong time to change your gender marker. It's based on you and how you feel and how you feel safe. Yes.
So I changed my name legally several years ago on my driver's license, on my credit cards, but not on my passport. And I did not have bottom surgery because of my health condition with kidney disease. I can't do bottom surgery, it's too risky for me. But my residence is still in my past name, my birth name in DuPage County. From what I'm just hearing, is that a good idea to keep it that way?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, so if your name is legally changed, When did you get your name legally changed? I'm assuming it was before March 1st of this year.
Oh, yeah, several years ago.
So March 1st of this year, I was actually part of this bill. Publication is no longer required for legal name change. But I'm sure when you got your name changed, you had to do publication.
Oh, yeah, had to be put in the newspaper and everything.
Correct. Well, that publication is also online. So there is an online paper trail, so to speak, of your name change. So if someone really, really, really wanted to dig into the internet and figure it out, they could. Okay. That's not to say it's good or bad. I know of people who had their legal name changed, their documents, like their driver's license doesn't match their name on their deed and had issues with equity loans or those type of things. And you have to submit your court orders, and there's just more steps. It doesn't mean it won't happen. You just have to like continuously out yourself as trans. You know, so it really depends for you. Is it a safety concern? Is it a, you know, I'm just ready to get this all done so everything matches? And I have no problem for myself. My driver's license says one thing, my social security says another. So my driver's license has an M gender marker. My birth certificate has an F gender marker, and my passport has an X gender marker. I'm a very confusing human. And so, you know, same thing with my name. My name assigned at birth is different than what's on my driver's license, which is different than how I identify. That's because I kind of went through some name variants, trans people problems. But, you know, it really just depends on what works best for you. It's kind of what I'm all getting back to. And if you ever want to talk through it, you can let me know. We can kind of just like chat through your thought processes and
Yeah,
what
I mean,
works best.
I did a lot of things already, but
Yeah.
I never did the passport, and I'm afraid I can't do the passport because I
You
don't,
can.
I don't have the bottom surgery, and I know if I go through, they would, you know.
So as of right now, today, even before this even with this administration, you could always get your name changed on your passport, period. As of today, or as of really Tuesday, but in this moment, you can get your gender marker changed on your passport. So if you apply and pay the $300 and send it in and do all of your things, you will get the right gender marker per the federal judge injunction from Tuesday. Name change has never been part of that. So you could always get your name changed on your passport. Yeah.
What's the question?
Question. Just to confirm, if I have a U.S. passport with M on it, and I have obvious female attributes, but not bottom surgery, am I at risk of entering the country? Fine. You are at no risk, Valerie. You can, if you have a U.S. passport, if your gender markers do not match, you are not at risk of leaving or entering the country from a U.S. standpoint. Now, there are other countries that have their own big feelings that you may, same thing as here, get turned around, or like I said, when I was in France, they looked at my passport like I was a crazy person because they'd never seen an X gender marker. Like the person I was with had never seen an X gender marker, but within F and M, like they're just making sure your picture matches. Does that answer your question, Valerie?
Let's assume yes, unless.
Perfect.
Yes, I'm sorry. It took me a while to find the mute button, but yes, that's a great answer.
Amazing. Perfect. And then, you know, when you're looking at documentation, right? And when you're doing your name change, things to remember. Okay. You can change your name on your credit card. Call the credit bureaus and change your name, because you can run into other issues with credit if the credit bureaus are not notified, because then all of a sudden you become multiple people, even though your social security is in line. I had that issue when I was buying my house where they were just confused. And I had credit cards in one thing and they were like, but your credit is 10 years old, but hasn't been used in years. And I'm like, no, I promise it has. And I had to call the credit bureaus and send in my court order and those type of things. So changing your credit cards is not enough. You actually have to go all the way to the credit bureaus, and you have to do each of them individually. And there's 3. Yeah, and TransUnion. Yeah.
I changed my name legally and was under the impression that my social security card would
Can you speak up, Rose?
I can repeat it too.
I was under the impression that my social security card would come to me with my name changed automatically.
Yeah, nope.
No.
So the question was, I changed my name legally via court order, but I assumed that my social security number would change. So each one of, or social security card.
I assumed that my social security card with the same number would come to me in the mail with my new name.
You have to go through the whole application process for social security. So same as birth certificate. So once you get your legal name change, it's a court order. So you want to get, I always say a minimum of about 8 of those sealed orders. And the reason is you are continuously giving them away, and going back to Daily Center or whatever to get another one is a huge pain in the butt. But so you get a whole bunch of them when you get your name change, whether you do your court date in person, or if right now a lot of them are virtual, you just go down and do it once. Then from there, you take one of those, you print out the form online for your birth certificate if you're in the state of Illinois, and you submit your $10, your court order, your original birth certificate. Make sure you have a copy of those, or order it in advance, or wait for it, 'cause it takes forever. And you sign a document and you send it in. You can automatically change your gender marker for, as a part of that, no extra documentation. Then you go online to Social Security. They now have an online platform that you can submit your documentation. You can submit your form online. It'll prompt you to make an appointment where you have to go into the Social Security office. You can't do it online with your original documentation. You need your original Social Security card. You need your court order. You need your birth certificate. And if there's any name changes that have happened in between, for instance, if you've gotten married, right, and maybe you didn't update your birth certificate because when you got married, there are a lot of people who do that, where their birth certificate still has their name from birth. They get married, they change their driver's license, those type of things, but they never go all the way back. So whatever piece of paper that you need to show those lines, you bring them an original copy, and then they take a photocopy, which drives me crazy. Why do I need an original one when you're about to take a photocopy of it? And then you wait 10 weeks, and then you finally get it in the mail. They make all of these processes a huge pain and lots of barriers. But again, Transformative Justice Law Project or us, we can help you with all of those document changes. Yes.
Changing Social Security does not change Medicare? Is that separate?
That's separate.
That's
Okay.
where my
Yeah.
question is
Yeah.
going, because I have not gotten a social security card with my,
Did you do the forms?
no, because on the social security website, it says, don't worry, Social Security will get Medicare your information. And I got a social security card in the mail with my new name on it.
Great.
But I can't get my new name to show up on Medicare.
You have to send them your court order.
Medicare?
Yeah.
Yes.
Separate process.
It's a completely separate process. Same thing with any insurance company. And it's really important that you wait till all your documents are updated before you tell insurance, because then insurance will start denying you, because they'll start saying you're a different person. Everything has to match.
Or human resources too.
Human resources too.
Okay.
Same thing with your payroll.
Right.
Do not, you can live your authentic life. You can have your legal name change. You can have your badge, everything like that, whatever it is with your name on it. But do not change your payroll, because if your bank account doesn't match, you won't get paid. It's got to match. Same thing if anyone's on here and they're looking at youth. If you are starting to apply for the college boards, okay, in the state of Illinois, any student can choose their name and gender marker regardless of your legal change. So in June of 2019, Governor Pritzker signed an executive order 19-11. If you ever see any images of it, there's a small girl in a trans flag tutu. That's my daughter. We're standing with Governor Pritzker. She gets used as like a prop a lot by him for a while, but look at the trans kid. That affirmed in the SIS system, so the student information system, that they don't need to have legal requirements to change it. But if, say, you're taking your SATs, ACTs, applying to college, it has to be your legal name attached to your social security, because FAFSA and those type of things, it's all based on those numbers and what's on there. When you're filing your taxes, if your social security number, your name is not updated when you file your taxes, make sure you use your, what we call dead name you're not using anymore, on your social security, on your taxes, or else they're going to tell you it doesn't match and they can't give you a refund. Now, maybe if you owe them money, it might be okay. No, I'm kidding. Don't do that either. It has to match. So for instance, when I file my taxes, I have to put what's on my social security, which does not actually match my ID, which has its own issues. I don't recommend, but I'm working on that. It's all about that number and making sure that everything matches. Any other documentation questions? Anyone online with any documentation questions? Amazing.
It's a good resource for all this.
Lambda Legal doesn't do a lot of one-on-one or any one-on-one for that matter. They primarily do like the big cases. I was with the regional legal director today, and he already tells me he gives my email to anyone who contacts him. And I was like, okay, well, that makes sense.
There is an organization or assist you with all of these.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a handful of them depending on where you are. So TJLP will do it. We do it. There's some in Southern Illinois. Christy.
Yes, if my marriage license hasn't changed, I've been married 27 years now, or coming up on that. Would you recommend I get that changed? And
that's up to you. So have you done a legal name change?
Yes, I have.
Then it's ceremonial.
Okay.
If you want to get it changed, you can go to Vital Records and pay to change it. But if you've already done all your legal change, you have everything else in order, everything else matches. The only time with your marriage license that people are asked for it is if you need to show like a chain of why your birth certificate is this, but this, so like they can see where it came from. Because with a marriage license, you don't have to get a court order to change your name, right? You can just give your marriage license. So sometimes when trans people have to change their name, they need to submit the marriage license to show. But if you've already legally changed, it's ceremonial at that point. It's an administrative document.
Okay, the only concern I might have is that my supplemental insurance with Medicare is through my spouse and her retirement. So I'm assuming that won't be a big issue. And as long as I can tie the two names together, I should be okay.
Yeah, I mean, your court order, but if your documentation all matches, and you should be fine, honestly.
Okay.
You may have to submit a court order, but I honestly haven't seen that very often.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Change your name on the marriage. Does that mean you're still married?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just you need a dissolution of marriage for that. I'm actually the content creator for Illinois Legal Aid Online for LGBT parentage and divorce. I do too many things. It's because when I was in a law program, I told them that their stuff was wrong. And then now I'm another boundary issue of myself. But yes, you need a dissolution of marriage, or called a prove up, in order to end the marriage, not changing it. My question, as a cis wife, do we need to be concerned about denied funds or credit worthiness because our spouse's gender identity doesn't match? No, your marriage license has no impact on your identity. It's considered like a ceremonial administrative document. Documentation for any credit would be based on your social security, which would then, most of the time, if they want additional, they ask for your picture ID to match, or in other cases, depending on the type of credit, they might ask for a birth certificate if you're unable to show matching of those, but they typically want a picture ID.
So the follow-up question to that one, I think I know who Ann is. Would be, is she's obviously my beneficiary for all of my plans. Right?
Yes.
Right. insurance plans and, of course, any financial savings they have. If I change my legal name or don't change the name, how do we make sure she's protected and she gets those funds?
So whether you go by a chosen name or a legal name, as long as your beneficiary on your documentation shows wherever you want it to go, your marriage license doesn't necessarily matter within that. Now, say you end up and you pass away, don't pass away. If you pass away and your estate goes into probate, right? Meaning that you didn't have a will or you didn't have powers of attorney or those type of things. You weren't able to show that you've been married. Someone is contesting your will. That's when, again, there's enough documentation and proof in your life that you're married, right? Now, in the eyes of the law, right, you are always every name you've ever used. So if you ever filled out documentation, it says, please list all previous names you've used, right? Now, you as a trans person and you're applying for a job or those type of things, you don't have to do that. But when someone passes away, that is that is on when, for instance, if someone's trying to access your bank account, is on there. So if someone has your documentation with your death record, it's getting really dark, and I don't know why I know this information. I do, but there are a lot of pieces that can be utilized, such as your marriage license is one of them. You can show, they have like a whole laundry list of things that you can show. Now, if you get your name changed, when your name change documentation shows both your dead name or your old name and your new name on them. So that can also be utilized because they're both on that document. You are going from A to B. And so there's not really any risk in that unless you're really worried someone's going after your money.
So that would mean you don't have to change your will.
Correct.
Okay.
I did change my
You don't have to.
about a year ago. Renee knows, with the other practice here, we changed our will and our medical directive and everything to show my new name, so that there wouldn't be any conflict.
Yeah, and if you have that ability, I absolutely recommend it. Now, there are people who are navigating the world who are still figuring out who they are and all sorts of things, or they didn't get around to it, or they're like, I'm fine, and then get hit by a bus the next day. Don't die. That's my thought process in this. But knock on, I don't know if this is real wood, but we're making it so. So yes. Thank you. Your powers of attorney. Okay, I used to work for the Center for Disability and Elder Law. I've done more estate planning documents than I can count at this point in my life. I know my way around a toady and powers of attorney better than I should as someone who doesn't work in that area of law. But I worked with deaf people and I worked with elder LGBT individuals. In fact, did you know that with the Center of Disability and Elder Law, if you were over the age of 55, you automatically get free legal counsel through them for estate planning documents. Something to take consideration, and they have what's called, I'm going to remember as soon as I stop thinking about it. They have an LGBT portion that regardless of your income or anything else, that you're also proud to thrive. You can also get a lot of services through them as well.
Who's that again? What's the name, please?
The Center for Disability and Elder Law. Proud to Thrive is the subsect of that covers free legal for anyone over the age of 55 and identifies as LGBTQIA+. And I used to run that program.
Thank you.
Done too many things in my life at this point. I'm overcommitted all the time. Yes.
Way back in the 70s, I taught a course of marriage and the family, and I ran across a book about marriage laws in different states. And back then, there was still some southern states that when the lady got married, she was considered chattel, as in cattle, and any possession she had, they didn't think she was wise enough to handle them. So the husband took over them, and although it took a while for ladies to get a credit card,
Mhm.
So ladies, we have come a long way.
I mean, do you know what the history of a wedding ring is?
Yes.
Right? It's ownership. Okay, like
Oh.
marriage at its core really started as ownership, and throughout the years, and now, the state of Illinois, we're a 50-50 state, right? And we're a no fault state. What that means is that it doesn't matter what someone did. You can get a divorce if you want a divorce. There's not this person cheated or this thing happened. You have the right to get a divorce if you want a divorce. Again, we're going a little dark here, but that's okay. These conversations need to happen. In years past, you had to prove if you were a female of why you should be allowed a divorce. And there were certain things, and you had to prove it. You had to prove domestic violence. You had to show up with the bruises. You had to prove all these different things. And it was a huge barrier where people were getting stuck in marriages that were very problematic. And we've come a long way in marriage equality in all ways. Is it perfect? No, the divorce system is awful. The divorce system is awful. It's slow. It takes forever. But much more progressive than it was in the 70s. Any other questions? I'm gonna keep going down my list. Okay, so what is my experience with the groups HRC, so the Human Rights Campaign? I am one of their table captains for the gala in November, so you should come to that. I work with HRC Chicago a lot. I work with National a little bit less. They have a controversial past, but they're doing the things to try to be better. And they're doing that by putting trans people in positions of power, as well as doing more anti-racist training. Are they perfect? Absolutely not. They have a lot of resources. Do I think they use them in the best ways? Not always. But I think that they have a lot of great things like that scorecard where you can say, I'm going to go travel to the state, and they do all the research for you. ACLU, again, I work with ACLU local in the state as well as national. They are one of our strategic partners. I've had them jump onto a case within an hour of my request when there's discrimination and help with our youth and with people of all marginalized identities. They are stretched thin. They're hard to pin down if you don't know someone who knows someone. And they refer out a lot when there's smaller cases. There's a handful of civil rights law firms that will take on cases at their request. I know a lot of their attorneys. I hang out with them as human beings, but they're a law firm, and they're a law firm that focuses more on the federal or systemic level than the one-on-ones. Lambda Legal, I was just at their gala recently. They are fantastic. They focus on LGBT issues. They're very enthusiastic, and again, they mainly focus on that federal or Supreme Court level or appeals level. They put out tons of resources, but they don't do any one-on-one support unless you have already made it through the lower courts and have something that they would potentially take in a district or a federal appeal. The U.S. Senate and Congress is a mixed bag, guys. I feel like that's a loaded question. How do I feel about our U.S. Senate and Congress? I think that there are many people we need to remove.
Budget 2026.
Huh?
Budget 2026.
Project all of them of every year ever. Our federal government has some issues. It has some issues.
So maybe a different question is, what can we do to advocate for our rights as trans people, including whether it's working with or writing to or speaking to our elected representatives or partnering with you and other organizations? How can we make a difference?
Absolutely. So we put out a call to action today for contacting your senator. Does everyone know how to find their legal representatives? There are search engines online where you can literally just put in your home address and it tells you every person who serves you. And I can help you guys get those search engines. There's a whole lot of them. And it goes all the way down to your older person. from top to bottom, okay? And we are more than happy in our organization to make sure we're connecting with you. So each one of these cases as they come up, we do everything from helping people fill out witness slips, whether it's something local or otherwise. We did it with the passports, which we do believe helped with this federal judge. We helped with collecting thousands of witness slips, which is an online form you fill out, stating your opinion on what's going on in a federal case, all the way through scripts of who to call, phone banking. We work with elected officials, both on the state and federal level, pretty much every day. And so as new things come up, we're made aware of them most time before the general society is, because we're so looped in, and then we create calls to action. And we have a newsletter, which you can sign up for over there, which also gives you all of those things that we put out each week of different ways that you can get involved in what's going on. Again, something as simple as writing an email or making a phone call, or where to show up when there's extra support needed.
Thank you. And I think most of the folks here know that the meeting we had with Senator Duckworth's office was simply me filling out an online form, getting a response by email and then following up.
Yeah. I mean, most of the time, like most of our elected officials are human beings who will just talk to you. Some of them have ego problems. Okay. And I can say the same thing about community leaders, right? Who are figureheads, but most of them are really wonderful. And so if you reach out to them, or those advocacy days in Springfield that you can go down, LGBT Advocacy Day was last month, and they do those once a year where the elected officials are made aware, and you can go meet all of them. There's a whole list of them that happen throughout the year based on different organizations. That one was Equality Illinois. Even as simple as walking into your elected official's office. Let me tell you, the mayor of Berwyn knows who I am. I walk into his office all the time. We don't like each other, but I got him to change the entire city handbook to include gender affirming care and municipal codes updated. I'm also the weird person. Before I bought my house, I read all the municipal codes. Part of it was started with us wanting to get a pet pig, and then it just kept going. No, I did not get a pet pig. I have 5 kids and 2 grandkids and 3 cats. See? That is my spouse shaking their head for anyone who needs that reference. No, it was a thing, but no, I am. And the reason is that when you sign a document online, right? Or you're signing for a credit card, who here reads the fine print? Like, who here reads what you are signing? Yeah.
I used to. I haven't.
Okay, so when you get an employment contract, who here reads the entire contract outside of your benefits and what you get paid? I bet you every single one of you have signed an arbitration agreement. Do you know what an arbitration agreement is?
Prevents you from
suing them.
Yes.
Even in the most extreme cases, right? It's important to read what you're signing. And I'm that person. And so if I'm going to invest in a house, and I bought a house during COVID because COVID taught me that I need more space for my children. I love them dearly, but also we have too many children. And I'm a foster parent. So we got our children in various ways. We can talk about that later. But, it's really important to read, like, what are the requirements? Do you need to cut your lawn? Like, what are the blight things? Like, don't learn because you got a ticket on your door, right? And the same thing goes with where you live. In Berwyn, we're a very gay city, as in the residents. Our political level is awful. It's awful. Our one LGBT organization is LGB and really just stops there. And it's all cis white men, gay men who used to party in Boys Town, right? And then grew up to be who they are, right? You have to look into where you are. And the same thing goes as you're working with your political figures, to bring this back in, as you're talking to your political figures, remember when you're talking to them, they're human and they only have so much they can do. But you want to come to them with why are you reaching out to them? What is your cause? Prepare an impact statement. Prepare and impact speech. I actually teach that. I do free trainings where I teach people how to come write those things, how to find your point of view, how to back your things up with facts, with statistics, where to find them. Because while passion is incredibly powerful, also having some reasoning behind it helps show that you're not only passionate, but that you're educated and there is a mission behind what you're doing. Any other questions? Because I know we're getting late.
We are very late.
Any other questions for the folks on Zoom, please? Otherwise, we're going to close this part of the meeting shortly. Any more questions from the folks here in the room?
So I'm going to then do my little spiel about Trans Upfront quickly. So my organization, Trans Upfront Illinois, serves trans individuals ages 4 to 25 in their support systems, and also anyone who contacts us without any financial barriers, meaning everything we do is free. And the reason is because we don't want anyone to ever feel like they have to figure out how to get the funds to be seen and validated. We provide services, everything from education, medical care, mental health care, and legal access. And we do that through the entire state. We're currently about a 900 individual caseload that we help across state. And that includes people who cross state lines to come get care here. Our organization is considered controversial because we support trans youth. And even in the trans community, trans youth it's a hot topic, right? And what that means is that we don't get grants. We don't qualify for them at the state or the federal level. So we're 100% community funded, but we're an entirely volunteer organization. The work that I do, I don't get paid for with Trans Upfront. All the work that you see, all the places you see me go, all the places that, people that we work with, no one in our organization gets paid. We do it because we are passionate about making change and making sure that every person has access to care, is validated, and especially with our youth, that they grow up to be the incredible humans that they're meant to be, because we don't want to lose anymore. We work with people of all ages. We're actually working on programs right now for cross-generational. We want trans youth to see trans older people of all age, because we want them to see that there is a life ahead of them. And we work with people who are transitioning late in life as well. We work with people who transitioned at 30, at 50, at 60, at 80. All the time we help them answer questions. We provide free trainings. And so I brought with me today a myriad of things over there, as well as some of our resources, some stickers, some pins, but we also do a lot of things virtually. So no matter where you are, you can join us. So for instance, this coming Tuesday, we have a town hall. We host monthly town halls, but this month is about Pride and getting back to the history of Pride. Pride started as a protest in Stonewall, and really, those, we call them our elders, right? They paved the way for us who we are here, and we're doing the same for the next generation. And we have a panel of incredible community leaders who are making a difference, and like an actual difference, not figureheads, but real people who go into the community to talk about the work that they do and how to get involved, and why it's so important to celebrate Pride this year. On Wednesday, we have an open house, again, virtual, of all the ways that you can get involved, ways that you can volunteer, ways that you can engage with your local electeds, all of those type of things. You get to learn about policy, but it's all an open house about us. If anyone is in the Chicagoland area, we also have our family-friendly all trans beach day tomorrow. If you've ever wanted to be a part of Hungry Hungry Hippos, we have a bounce house where you get to play the game as a human. That's like my favorite part, fingering humans, as well as many other things. It's an all trans beach day. So it's people with trans youth, trans adults, no matter your age, it's just about being within community and joy. And then we have a fundraiser coming up. It's a drag show on July 6th. But if you join our newsletter, you'll get all of that in your email and learn more about what we do, ways to support us, ways to get involved. The work that we do is really life-saving. We've worked with so many families who've told us that, they've been at risk of losing their youth and young adults. We go in when there is a loss and help prevent clusters and do all of those type of things. So we really are boots on the ground to make sure that every trans person, regardless of age, feels like they can access the care that they need. So there is my Trans Upfront spiel.
Are you 501c3?
We are a 501c3. Yep, we are a 501c3. So any donations are tax exempt. And if you do have a employer who does matching, we are finally on Benevity. I don't know how to say that. Benevity. It's like whatever the matching platform is for employers. We just did that like 2 days ago. I was very proud of myself. That is not my world, but it was doing the paperwork was a lot. But with that, thank you all for inviting me here. I loved answering all of your questions, and I'm more than happy to give up. I have the general business cards, but I'm also more than happy to give my business card. It does have my cell phone number on it as a real human. I feel very strongly about leading without ego and being accessible to humans. So I always tell anyone that they can text me anytime. It's literally this phone that is attached to my body. It doesn't go to anyone else. It goes to me. Same thing with a lot of our other board members. And our board members are trans people or parents of trans people. We have experts who are in education. We have experts who are in mental health and policy. And so we all work together in order to make sure that we are having the best information within that moment to help you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
You're welcome.
Wow.